player. We faced him when I was in Columbus, and he was at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
He's a great player, and I think this is a big game for Phillip Rivers. If they go down for a second week in a row, his MVP discussion will diminish a bit.
If you don't mind me asking, when J.J. Watt played at Wisconsin, how tough was it to game plan for him?
Oh, he was. You had to try to get some help for whoever was blocking him, and he was just he was a difference maker. He was a guy that he totally distracted everything you were trying to do.
I mean, it's amazing to see, how much he's progressed since he was at Wisconsin. Because I've been a Buckeye fan since I've been growing up, and so watching J.J. Watt at Wisconsin and then how well he's done in the NFL, it's amazing to me.
It's not amazing to me. When I faced him in college, I knew he was going to be a great NFL player.
When you were on the sideline, did you know, when you saw some of these players, they're going to be great NFL players? I mean, was it that easy to just kind of determine?
The great ones separate themselves, and he was certainly one of those.
And then looking at let's see, Lions at Falcons. That to me is kind of an interesting.
Did you make your pick?
Oh, sorry, I'm going to go Denver.
Okay.
I'm going to go Denver, but I'm going to say it's going to be a really close game.
I think it'll be close, but Denver, it's hard to pick against them.
Yeah.
How do you pick against? I mean,
no, it's not very smart to pick against them. So I'm going to show you I'm not very smart.
Well, you know what? I got you down for San Diego anyway. Okay. What else do we have, Andrew? What's next?
Lions at Falcons.
This is the London game.
Yes. So, I mean, there's no real home field advantage here.
No.
I mean, the Lions have looked good at times, but then, Calvin Johnson's still going to be out, so they're running with Golden Tate. The Falcons, like I said, their offensive linemen have been dropping like flies.
Yeah, we mentioned this. I mean, aside from Julio Jones and Matt Ryan, there really hasn't been many bright spots on Atlanta's team. I mean, Detroit, they're coming together. Calvin Johnson might play.
I've heard conflicting reports. I've heard he might not, but I've heard it's leaning towards it now. But we'll see on that.
You know what? I'm going to take Detroit here.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be low scoring. And I have this big feeling Reggie Bush is going to break out after coming back from his injury.
You think so?
I have this weird feeling on Reggie Bush right now, so I'm gonna pen myself down for Detroit.
Okay. I'm gonna go Detroit with you too, but I think the X factor.
You sound a little taken back by this.
I'm a little hesitant because. With how Detroit's kind of they've been a funny team this year. They haven't been as consistent as I would like, especially with Calvin Johnson kind of on the mend. So I'm going to go Detroit, but I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta won.
Well, I look at Atlanta as being the desperate team. Right now they are in a desperate mode. That gives them a little bit of natural emotional advantage.
Yep.
But I have to go with my heart. I'm going with Detroit. I worked for Coach Caldwell at Indianapolis.
Yep.
He's a fine human being. He will keep that team on an even keel. I think they have more talent than Atlanta. So I'm going to go with the Lions.
All right. And then this next game for me is going to be a little bit harder to predict because it's kind of a whose will is going to be higher.
I'm looking at it right now. Oh, man.
Vikings at Buccaneers.
You know what? I'll take Tampa Bay here, and I think Vincent Jackson has a big game. Mike Evans is coming back off his injury.
Yep.
Mike Glennon, I have this belief that Mike Glennon's better than advertised. I mean, you look at numbers and everything. I think he has the talent to be a good quarterback in the NFL.
Yep.
It's just a matter of putting it together with scheme and everything. So I'm going to take Tampa here.
Okay.
Part of it is attributed to Minnesota's pass defense is just god-awful.
Minnesota's defense is awful, but I'll kind of catapult on you and say that I think Teddy Bridgewater has a very good game, and I really believe in their running back scheme too because McKinnon's looked really good. Asiata hasn't looked terrible. The Minnesota offense can keep them in games. Can their defense? That's a whole other question. But I'm going to take Minnesota here.
Okay.
My original thought before listening to you two was go with Tampa at home. But I think I'm going to switch. You're
switching.
I'm going with the Vikings after listening to you two guys.
Vikings, all right.
Bills at Jets. To me, I'm going Bills, and I'm not even thinking twice about it.
We talked about Buffalo. They're coming along, again, with the new defensive coordinator scheme. They're coming in. The quarterback switch with Kyle Orton has panned out so far. He's thrown for about 300 yards a game.
Sammy Watkins looks really, really good.
Caught the game-winning touchdown. I'll take Buffalo here as well.
Because I think with the Jets, their defense is so banged up with, I think, like I mentioned to you the other day, Their 4 starting corners for the year are already injured, and the whole quarterback situation, I still don't like it. Even though they just added Percy Harvin, don't think it matters.
Conventional wisdom is Bills for sure. So to be different than you two,
Oh,
I'm
again.
going Jets. I'm going Jets. Not that I
He's
have
going to
any,
smoke us in the
not
standings
that I
this
have any
week.
Yes, he is.
rationale for that, but I'm going against the conventional wisdom.
He's going to
Alright.
smoke us in the standings this week.
All right. And then let's see, Bears at Patriots. That's going to be a good
That's
game.
that's
a
a
very
conflict
interesting
of
game.
interest. And that is tough because with Chicago right now, Marshall's been banged up, Jeffrey's been banged up.
Jeffrey, I think, got 9 yards last week.
Matt Forte has had an MVP caliber season quietly because
Yeah.
he's done it every year. Again, over the past 10 years in the NFL, he's played the most snaps of any running back.
Yeah, he's been a workhorse.
Granted, he's been a little banged up
Yeah.
over the past couple years, but there's really no better all-purpose back than Matt Forte. And the Patriots' rush defense has not been that great this year.
I have a feeling I know which way you're leaning.
I'm going to lean on Chicago.
So you're leaning with a Chicago win at New England.
Yeah, boldly. Boldly.
Okay, I'm going to go New England here because, I think Tom Brady's been hitting the stride at the right time, and I mean it's hard to
With
pick
no
against Tom
weapons,
Brady.
according to him.
Yeah. Well, these past few weeks he's been putting up really good numbers. Shane Vereen has looked really good in the backfield, and actually coming out of the backfield to pass because he cut the touchdown pass last week. I think,
Doing
too.
well for my fantasy team, by the way.
So I'm going New England here.
I spent Monday and Tuesday in Chicago at our Horizon League meetings, and so I got to see all the Chicago media and the Chicago newspapers, and this is an important moment for the Bears.
Yep.
Because they had the discussion of the locker room problem
Yeah.
after the game. And,
With Brandon Marshall.
and then everyone refuting that and, oh, we're fine. And
Yep.
are they fine? Are they not? Tough place to go to the Patriots. So even though it's a desperate moment for the Bears, I think I have to go with a little conventional wisdom, and I'm going Patriots.
Okay.
All right.
Got you down for that.
Seahawks at Panthers. I'm going Seahawks here, and I don't.
I'm not saying think twice on it because Seattle did lose to the Rams last week.
Yes.
But Carolina, shockingly enough, especially what they did last year, Carolina's been pretty bad this year.
Yes.
And their pass defense, I believe their 2 corners, Munderland and Kaysen, have been rated by Pro Football Focus as the 2 worst in the league.
Yep.
Or at least the top 10 or something in that region.
Yep.
So numbers don't lie. I'm going to pick against Carolina. I'll take Seattle.
And Carolina's running game's still banged up, and they've been a running team for a long time, even though they do have Cam Newton. So
Cam Newton had a monster game.
Yeah, I mean
Not
he
too
did
long
have
ago.
a monster game, but I can't pick Carolina.
I'm going to go with the Seahawks.
Go
You gotta
Seahawks.
with the defending champs. I will be shocked if they lose, a third straight?
Yeah.
Third straight,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
would be so shocked if they did that.
Dolphins at Jags. I'm going Dolphins here. I think last week was kind of a fluke for the Jags.
Tannehill is coming along.
Yep.
I think he has a pretty big game this week. I'll take the Dolphins as well.
I have to go with the Dolphins.
Dolphins.
I don't think the Jaguars are a great team yet. I think they're getting better. And they do stop the run,
Yep.
As we just saw.
as we just lived through.
Yeah.
But I think the Dolphins are progressing.
One of the games of the week in my mind, Ravens at Bengals. Now, when you look at the Bengals, they've looked really bad all of a sudden, especially that defense. AJ Green's still out for this game, I believe.
He's practicing this week, I've heard, but he's not.
Yeah, he's
100%.
not 100%. So even if he plays, I still, So that's a big factor for Cincinnati. They haven't looked good. No AJ Green. With Baltimore, Flacco's looked really, really good.
I'm taking Baltimore here.
Yeah.
And again, what you just said with Cincinnati's defense, they look really good on paper, but on the field, I don't know what's going on.
The wheels
If
have
it's
come
a
off.
system thing. I have this weird love-hate relationship for Marvin Lewis because it's like, okay, you could get him to the playoffs. He has a great roster, but what has he really done with it?
Yep.
And they just keep firing him contract extensions.
Yeah.
So
Where's the game?
in
It is
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
That's telling.
That's a tough
That's
game.
telling. I pick Baltimore on the road here.
My heart is telling me Baltimore, but it's in Cincinnati. I mean, and it's a big rivalry game, so it's kind of, all these stats that you can take into account. I think you just throw right out the window. So I'm gonna go with my heart and say Baltimore, but I think it's gonna be a really, really close game.
I'm going against you, too. I'm going Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Now, I think Baltimore's the better team, and I think conventional wisdom, again, is Baltimore.
Yep.
I'm going with the Bengals.
All right.
Mike Nugent with the winning field goal.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
Well, I mean, because last week
Can't pick against that.
Last week, I think he tied it up to send it into overtime, but then he missed
the one in overtime.
Yeah.
That was sad.
I mean, what a great career though that he's had in the NFL.
Quietly too.
Quietly, yeah.
10th year.
Yeah.
He's a great one.
When you look at Mike Nugent, he was actually drafted. You don't see many kickers ever being drafted, and he was drafted rather. I think he was what, 4th round?
Oh, he's a
or 5th
sixth rounder.
No.
I want to say 2nd or 3rd.
Oh, really?
He was really high
by
up.
The Jets.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
By the Jets. Check that out.
Here, I'm gonna
That's interesting.
He was 2nd or 3rd round.
Remember we all made fun of Jacksonville for drafting a punter 4th round a few years ago? He actually had a couple nice kicks against Cleveland.
This
past
I'm
week.
looking this up here.
Yeah, Nugent.
2nd round. Yeah,
It was
2005.
2nd round. I thought it was later than. I thought it was way later
You
than
guys
that.
are too young to remember that.
I was 10 years old. I was 10 years old
Right.
when.
Well, let's see. That was
2002.
2005, so I was, I was 14.
Oh, 2005, I would have been 13.
I
So
was 53 and I was coaching. I remember.
Texans at Titans. I'm gonna go. Well, and if you just saw the news, Zach Mettenberger is going to be starting.
I like Mettenberger,
But in his first game going up against J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney might play. I think because he's getting really close, and the Texans' defense is really, really good. So it's going to be hard to pick. It's going to be hard to pick against that Houston defense going up against a rookie quarterback.
really good defense that just gave up 24 or 28 to Pittsburgh.
Okay, but with respect, some of that was a fluke.
I thought so too. You know what? This game might be my upset special of the week. I'm going to take Tennessee at home.
Oh, okay.
Off the conventional wisdom, Mr. President.
Man,
I'm going to take Tennessee. I think this is the upset special.
I'm going Texans here, and I think the Titans will score less than I'll say I'll say 10 points or less.
I'm going with the Texans.
Good call.
Yeah, now it's a good call.
Rams at Chiefs. I'm gonna go Chiefs here.
Hard to pick against my Rams here.
Yeah, I'm going Chiefs. I think their offense is gonna be too much.
Rams' run defense has stunk this year. I'll take the Chiefs.
Boy, my heart tells me the Rams. James Laurinaitis.
Yep. James.
Jake McQuaid.
Jake
two of my
McQuaid.
guys on the Rams, but I'm gonna have to go with the Chiefs since this is a heated competition and I want to win. I'm going with the Chiefs.
And I'll tell you what, that special teams unit for the Rams, I mean, with McQuaid as the long snapper, Johnny Hecker with the big throw last week and the big fake punt. I mean, did you guys have anything drawn up like that back when you coached?
Not the one where they faked catching it on the other side.
Yeah.
And, but of course, we had some of those other fakes, but that was a new one. That was
That was
impressive.
gutsy. That was really
impressive.
gutsy.
Well, this next one I know is gonna be another tough one for you. Eagles at Cardinals because you have
Game of the week.
Get it? That's game of the week.
Game of the week.
You have Teddy Ginn out in Arizona.
Yeah, Malcolm
is with Philly.
Yeah,
that's a tough one.
Where's the game?
At
Arizona.
Cardinals. Yeah.
Dome Stadium.
I'm going with the Cardinals, but I am not totally convinced.
You're not convinced.
I'm not convinced.
You have the right to change your mind on that one.
No, I'm gonna stick with the Cardinals, but I hope this doesn't cost me the week's championship.
Well, I don't know. You made some pretty gutsy calls.
I'm gonna go Arizona here too because I love Arizona's defense.
I do too.
I mean because I'm not. I think Darren Sproles is out like 2 more weeks. I think.
Yeah, that sounds right. Shane McCoy hasn't played up to speed this year.
McCoy hasn't played all that great. I like what Foles has done, but I think Arizona's defense is going to be too much.
I think this is kind of again game of the week style. I think it's a low scoring game, like a 14-10, hard game. I think Arizona does win, and I think Andre Ellington finds a way to get through Philly's defense.
All right.
The other thing I'm hoping for is Foles, played at the University of Arizona.
Yep.
So I'm hoping he has a lot of distractions with a lot of his old friends coming up to the game and so forth, and that would give the Cardinals a little advantage.
Colts at Steelers.
I'm not thinking twice. I'm writing Indy down right now. Andrew Luck is too good.
Yep. I think
Andrew Luck's way too good.
I think Andrew Luck is going to tear apart the Steelers' offense. I think the Steelers might be able to keep up for a little while in terms of offense because Indy's defense isn't anything to write home about. They're not terrible, but I think Andrew Luck for the Steelers' defense. I mean, the Steelers' defense, especially with the pass, has been awful, and so I'm picking Andrew Luck here. I'm going Colts.
I'm going Steelers.
Oh my!
Ooh.
Oh my!
The only reason is because I want to beat you guys. And I can't beat you guys by picking everything the same. So
Yeah.
Conventional wisdom against
Conventional wisdom.
Andrew Luck is a special guy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
Jack Mewhort starting on the offensive line there.
Yeah, and he's looked good.
Boom Heron is
Boom.
on the Colts. And, and so,
But Cam Hayward's on the Steelers.
And Cam, he's really come into his own.
Will Allen is there. And is Ryan Shazier back yet?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, so since I have 3 guys on the Steelers, I'll go with them. But I'm probably not.
Conventional wisdom. Hey, go with the standings. But if you don't mind me asking, what was it like to kind of see Andrew Luck go to work? I mean, what was his work ethic like? How did he go about preparations for game? I mean, what was it like to be around him? Because I actually met Coach Jim Harbaugh here when 49ers practiced here a couple years ago, and I asked him what was it like to coach Andrew Luck. He said he's the best quarterback he's ever seen. So, I mean, what was it like just kind of being around a guy like that?
Well, unfortunately, I was at
the year before.
The year before.
Yeah.
And it was my good work that made it such they could get Andrew Luck. Since we lost so many games, we got the first pick. So I sparked the Colts.
You did a good job there.
But everything that I know of him, I tried to recruit his father. His
Oliver
father was playing at Cleveland St. Ignatius.
Oh, wow.
And I was at, I think that year I was probably at Miami of Ohio. And he ended up going to West Virginia and played quarterback. And he's now the athletic director at West Virginia. Great family. Dad was a Rhodes Scholar. Brilliant guy. Andrew's a brilliant kid. Everything I've heard from my friends back in Indy is he's a special guy.
Cool. Well, here's the game that I think I'm itching to get to. Raiders at Browns. You know, we were talking about it right before you came in. And
I'm not even Browns. What's going on?
I'm a huge Browns fan. I'm picking the Browns, but I'm slightly concerned.
Even say but.
No, we're all on the Browns here. You have to get the run defense back on track.
I mean,
it's that simple.
Like I threw out, the numbers for Oakland's offense, last in terms of total yards, last in terms of rushing, second to last in terms of total points.
He gave up 127 yards to Denard Robinson.
Yeah.
I sat there and scratched my head for a good 10 minutes at that stat. I just don't. Well, they have to bounce back somehow.
I'll throw this question right at you real quick before we move on to the next game. Is it too early to talk about what to do with Hoyer? What would you do?
I think Brian's done a good job of being what they wanted to become, which was a run first, play great defense, opportunistic play action pass, bright young guy, quick release, don't turn it over.
Yep.
That was a good formula. I'm not sure we've progressed on defense like we'd hoped, which makes it difficult. And then when you lose Alex Mack,
that's a huge.
All of a sudden you're losing, maybe the best center in football.
Yep.
And so now all of a sudden you're not quite the run team. Last week was the conventional wisdom. I'm sure you sat here and picked the Browns over the Jags.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I did, but
no. I called the trap.
Yeah, you called the trap.
So you picked the Jags?
I called the trap a week ago.
Did you pick the Jags?
I didn't pick them.
Anybody can call the trap
and not pick it.
You pick them.
You got to have the guts to do it.
I got to do it for the standings, though. I got to do it for the standings.
So, we've got to. We're playing at home, right?
Yes.
So I think that'll be important. I do think this though. The Raiders are getting a little better.
Yeah, especially on offense. A little bit better.
So we've got to jump them from the get-go, but it's hard coming west to east to play.
Well, keep in mind, they just made a coaching change, too, getting rid of Dennis Allen.
Yeah.
And it's looking
over,
Sperano. Tony Sperano.
Yeah.
So not a bad switch there so far.
See, I don't know if you happen to see, there was a video out there that was released when they let Sperano take over the team. Sperano gathered the team around, and he dug this big hole around their practice field. And he buried a football and said, this is towards the first half of the year. I want, I'm going to throw the first thing of dirt here, and if you guys want to throw more dirt in to say new beginning,
that
was his motivational
That's an interesting technique, I guess.
Well, I'm a little salty at the Raiders because, if you remember back to the first half of last year, when Terrell was the quarterback, they beat the Chargers. And they beat the Steelers.
Yeah.
Now,
Pryor had like a 98-yard run or something like that.
He had a tough game against the Giants back east. didn't handle the post game very well because blamed it a little bit on his injury.
Right.
Kind of got in the doghouse. Then they put in McGloin.
Yeah, McGloin.
Something like that.
They've been horrible ever since.
Yep.
So I'm a little salty toward the Raiders. I think they'd be I'd be more worried about the Raiders today had they left Terrell continuing to play. But this young guy they've got, Carr, I think it is.
Yeah.
Derek Carr.
He's getting a little bit better, and I haven't seen much of him. About the only part of the NFL I see are the highlights.
Yeah, pretty much the same here, to be honest with you.
I'm a little nervous about this game, but we've simply got to get it.
Packers at Saints. This is another interesting game, but I'm going to go Packers here.
Green Bay.
Even though it's at New Orleans, I'm going Green Bay because New Orleans' defense looks terrible. Drew Brees, you can kind of whisper, doesn't look quite the same. But I mean, even look, the New Orleans choked against Detroit late last week, so I'm taking Green Bay here.
Not only that, but the one player in the NFL that I feel no one talks about is Jordy Nelson, and I think he's a top 2 or 3 receiver in this league.
I would argue Antonio Brown's up there right now.
Top 3 in
Jordy
my opinion
Nelson
are Brown in order: Brown, Nelson, Demaryius Thomas, and then it's another tier. Maybe Julio Jones. Megatron's been hurt, but that's
right now
to be said.
Without
Megatron.
Megatron.
Right now, no question. Brown, Nelson, Demaryius. And then there's a whole other team.
Because if, let's say once Gordon comes back from his suspension and Calvin Johnson comes back from his injury, then that list, I think, shifts a little bit.
Oh, it grows, no doubt. And, again, you don't talk about Jordy Nelson. They just signed him to a nice, beefy contract, so he's happy. I think Rodgers and Nelson, again, Rodgers has been MVP type all year, as he usually is. I think they have a big game. I pick Green Bay in this one.
Who you got?
I'm going to go with Green Bay.
Corey Linsley's done a nice job.
Corey Linsley, we've got A.J. Hawk over there. So I'm going to have to go with them. Although I'll say this, it's tough playing in that dome.
Yeah.
And in the NFL, what people don't realize is it's such a fine line between personnel and talent. But right now they're on a little bit of a roll. Saints are in, this is that middle of the year desperation moment. We talked a lot about desperation teams. If Saints don't get this one at home, they're looking at maybe not being in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which is surprising.
Well,
really surprising in that division.
But, if you look at the division, the Falcons aren't really doing a whole lot. Tampa Bay's at the bottom. New Orleans
one's doing anything.
No one's really taking a whole... Right. Yeah, Carolina's been middle of the pack.
Carolina's
no one's really
leading the division at 500, aren't they?
I believe so, yeah.
But going back to New Orleans, they're getting Mark Ingram back. Definitely a plus. But again, the pass defense just hasn't been there for me.
But I will say this. The Saints are a much better home team than they are a road team.
Oh, and that's same as Seattle.
Yeah.
They're basically like Seattle. I mean, Seattle, so to speak, doesn't lose at home, which they just did not too long ago.
But, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's that situation. But Green Bay, I think, is just too much this year. Nelson, in addition to Nelson, Cobb's been very good this year. Adams is coming along as a slot receiver. Lacey and Starks in the backfield. I think it's just too much.
Well, the Monday night game, Washington at Dallas. I have Dallas here. But Washington's starting Colt McCoy. Nothing against Colt McCoy. I know you faced Colt McCoy.
They did twice.
But I can't pick Washington here. I can't. The Dallas run game, Tony Romo's been doing really well.
Murray's having a historic season.
Hard to pick against Dallas, and I never thought I would say that with how just kind of very average they've been the past few years.
I'm going to pick Dallas, but I think it's closer than you think.
Okay.
I think it's closer than you think because Dallas's pass defense, their run defense has been very good this year.
But you think Colt McCoy can light them up?
I'm not saying he's going to throw 350 yards and 3 touchdowns, but Deshaun Jackson could break past that secondary at any time.
Okay.
So, Deshaun Jackson, I think he has a good game. And I think it's closer than you think, but Dallas, again, we talked earlier. That offensive line's coming together. DeMarco Murray, historic season so far. Did you see the story, actually? DeMarco Murray showed up at practice the other day with 5 iMacs for his offensive line, valued at $1,300 each. He bought them all brand new computers. I think that's pretty cool, but yeah, Dallas takes this game, no doubt.
I'm kind of interested to see your pick here.
I'm going with Dallas.
Okay. I thought you might kind of go against the grain here.
No, Colt McCoy is going back to his roots to play. Which is
true.
Again, he might get distracted with all the ticket requests and all the things that go along with going back home. But I think Dallas has been working hard to get better.
Yep.
I think they like the fact that they're getting better. I don't think complacency will set in. If it does, Washington will beat them. But I got to go with the Cowboys.
Well, there you have it.
That's it.
We're going to take a short break, and on the other side of the break, how much time are you working with?
I've got about 8 minutes left.
Okay. So we'll take a really quick short break, and
Let's
then on
do
the
it.
other side of the break, we'll talk a little bit of YSU stuff.
Let's do it.
You're listening to Under Further Review here on Rookery Radio. Welcome back to Under Further Review here on Rookery Radio, and I am joined in studio here by President Jim Tressel, who's been gracious to come on. So, talk a little bit about, when you were originally, kind of looking at this job, what enticed you about coming to Youngstown State?
Well, I had 15 years worth of tremendous memories about how important YSU is to this region. The students that we had here, just had a great affinity for all of the faculty and staff and students, and it was a no-brainer for me because the red, white, and black is important to me, and probably the most thrilling times in my life were here in my first go-around, and looking forward to some great times ahead.
So what goals are you setting for, not only yourself, but, the university?
Well, I think the thing that we always have to keep our eye on are what I call the big things. Keep the big things the big things. And the number one big thing is student success. All of you come to the university with the idea of, you're going to be able to catapult into whatever you dream of from here, and that we're going to prepare you. We're going to challenge you, and we're going to give you every opportunity to grow and so forth. And so student success is number one. So that being said, we've got to do a better job in retention, which right now I think we retain our students just under 70% of the time. It's not always an academic issue. Sometimes, financially students run into some things, have to go get a job or whatever. But we want to increase our retention. And then, of course, we want to increase our completion, because you can't get out there in the world and be as competitive as you want to be in many venues without completing that degree. Now, there are those exceptions, people that, dropped out of school and, invented Google or whatever they did, and,
right.
and that type of thing. But just in general, playing the percentages, it's sure helpful if you've shown someone that you can begin something, complete it, and grow from it. And so retention and completion are huge for us, and so that's our number one.
How much of a transition has it been, since coming from the University of Akron to being president here? How much of a transition has that been for you?
It hasn't been near as much transition as I thought it might be, because we're such similar institutions. We're very strong in some of the same areas. We have some of the same challenges. We have great kids, great students, great young people that are a part of both campuses. So I have found it to be a tremendous bonus that I spent those last 2 years there in the total academic sector, the comprehensive sector, and I spent 38 years in the myopic athletic world, but it was still on campus,
right.
And it was still 18 to 23-year-olds, and it was,
right.
90% of it was the same, but the scope broadening, like it does when you're an administrator, spending those 2 years at the University of Akron were helpful, especially as similar as we are.
Real quick before you get out of here, you appointed Dr. Martin Abraham as the interim provost. What kind of went into that decision?
Well, we spent probably since I got here in May trying to figure out what was it we needed in a provost. And I tried to get as much input as I could. I talked to faculty, I talked to staff, I talked to deans, I talked to students, I talked to people from other universities, talked to a lot of people about what's the key to having the right chemistry. And what I grew to really believe, especially after bringing in 4 candidates from outside,
right?
Because there was a lot of opinion that, well, we need to bring someone in from the outside,
right?
And I was okay with considering that. Then once we did, and then there was an obvious lack of consensus on which of the 4.
Right.
The more I thought about it, I thought, the person that I've seen demonstrate all of those things that I hear everyone wants is right here on our own campus. Now we'll see if he has interest, especially from an interim standpoint. Does he want a chance to jump in and dig in and see if he can earn the the total provost title? I just thought it was the best thing to do, but like any other decision, just like we were just doing the NFL picks there.
Right.
When the ball is snapped and you decide to run, half the people thought you should have passed, and when you decide to pass, half the people thought you should have run.
Yep.
Or if you didn't blitz, half the people thought you should have blitzed. Or so I understand fully that
right.
There's a lot of varying opinions about things, and you're only going to be at the end of the day totally judged by the results. And I'm very confident of the results we'll have down the road.
President Tressel, thanks for joining us. We're going to take another short break here on Under Further Review, and on the other side of the break, we're going to have a little bit of World Series talk. You are listening to Under Further Review here on Rookery Radio. Baby,